Good morning, CX enthusiasts. Good to see each and every one of you. Good to see a number of people who have been consistent in attending this great breakfast. I can see familiar names in here. Good to see our Mercy. Donald, good morning. How is Dar es Salaam? Good to see Vinny. There's a multi-autopilot. I want to believe this person will be renaming themselves so that we can call our customers by their names. Good to see Doris Rono. Welcome. Celestine, good morning. Somebody by the name CS. We are happy to host a cabinet secretary, or is it another name? Kindly, if you can rename yourself, we want to refer to you with your right name. Good to see you, Elizabeth Kerry, Josephine Kerosi, good morning. Liz Gishovi, good to see you again. Good to see Mine Minor, all the way from that other location. Good to see Doris. I think I've mentioned your name. And we can see the numbers are just growing. We will be starting shortly. As we rename ourselves, feel free to use the chat functionality to tell us where you are listening us from. I can see the chatting function is working very well. Somebody by the name DJ, one of the faculty member, is welcoming you to join us. Gerisham, good to see you as I wait for CS to rename themselves. Maybe admin, you can check if somebody can rename themselves or we need to allow them. Multi-autopilot. Celestine Awori is saying, good morning, excited to be here, listening from Nairobi, Kenya. Nairobi is represented. Watu wangu wa Dar es Salaam, jamani, naomba mtuamkue mapema. Donald, sijui wenzako wako wapi? Umewaalika ama bado? Tunawasubiri. The number is growing. We will be starting shortly, as we really hope that CS will rename him or herself Autopilot. Muti's Autopilot will also rename him or herself or the organization. And Kagali, good morning and welcome. Good to see you here. I just want to see people renaming and others. Multi-autopilot is saying, I am an AI assistant. Eish. We also have an artificial intelligence person in the house. Muti Muganes takes note, blah, blah. So that's autopilot. That tells me I need to get into the world of AI to know how AI renames themselves. Okay, in a few seconds we're there. Jackie Waithera, good morning, good to see you. Welcome to our today's conversation. Terry, good to see you. Angela Musuku, welcome. Okay, Gertrude Michira, welcome to this great breakfast as we kick off the discussion this morning around the world of CX, where we have breakfast discussions every Tuesday from 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. as we take that breakfast that gives us our strength. We also want to have a breakfast that empowers us, and especially in the area of customer experience. And this breakfast is brought to you by the Customer Experience Academy Africa with associate partners Evolve CX, Inspire Resource, and Anthill Champions. Even as we create CX champions, mumewakilishwa there with Anthill Champions. Welcome each and every person who is joining us this morning. CX Academy Africa, we are dedicated to shaping the future of customer experience. The landscape is changing, and therefore we want to be ahead in shaping the future of CX and focusing in Africa. You can see Rosemary Kiboro is joining us this morning. Welcome, Rosemary. And our programs are designed to empower professionals at every level, providing them with the skills and knowledge that is needed to excel in the evolving landscape of customer experience in Africa and beyond. The CX Academy Africa seeks to create awareness on the CX trends. And you recall our first breakfast, we were looking at the 2024 outlook. We want to be ahead to understand what is happening in this space. And so we want to create awareness of the trends, empower you and I and our organizations in CX skills, tools, and knowledge. And therefore, when you're joining this breakfast, don't leave your colleagues behind, because we all know that you cannot succeed alone in your organization. We want to create a CX culture, the right culture in the organization. So kindly pull the rest of your colleagues into this breakfast. We are the go-to solutions providers on matters customer experience to organizations and to individuals. As I said earlier, the associate partners are Evolve, Inspired, and Anthill Champions. Our programs at the moment, among our programs is the World of CX Weekly Breakfast Virtual Conversation that is ongoing, and we are building up this program, and therefore don't miss every Tuesday, maybe except on public holidays, but any other Tuesday we will be here. Monthly CX Champions webinars, which my colleague will be talking about at the tail end of this broadcast. Customer experience in-person training, you'll be hearing more about this. Then customer experience bootcamp for leaders. Are you a CX leader in your organization? You don't want to miss the first one in March in Varsha. Duncan will be talking about this. And then customized customer experience training programs in-house. This is where we come to your organization and take you through customized solution-based training that are specific to your organization. Here are some of the faculty members. More will be unveiled on the go. We have one, Dr. Lucy Kirudhu, a very seasoned CX expert in this market. As we keep admitting people who are joining us, then we have one and only Paul Kitemu, faculty member, CX Academy Africa, and then our coach, Duncan Juma, faculty member, CX Academy Africa. Kindly stay on mute, but feel free to use your chat. Let's engage. Let's see those questions. Let's see those comments on the go. We'll be acknowledging each and every comment that will be posted as we keep getting to understand this world of CX. At this point, allow me to invite Dr. Lucy Kirudhu, who will engage with our guest speaker this morning. Take it up, Dr. Reed.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Paul. And good morning to all that are joining us this morning. I'm really excited to be moderating the conversation with our guest speaker by the name Stella Atella. And you'll get to know a lot more about Stella as we dive deep in. And she's one of the leading HR practitioners from Kenya that is playing at the global space. And when I look back to the history of Stella, having worked at the Standard Chartered Bank here in Kenya, having worked at Unilever, having worked at Shell, I think now we call it Vivo Energy, it's been a journey that she has taken in the world of organizational development, in the world of people management, and in the world of employee experience. And we are really looking forward to learning from her. So currently, Stella is a global chief performance learning and culture for the World Food Program. She's based out of Rome. Can you imagine? She had to wake up at 4 a.m. It's 5:30, wherever it is that she's joining us from. So we are really greatly honored. And Stella has been leading, guiding, and empowering a team of diverse, knowledge workers and people who are experts in their own field. And she has been involved in their talent development, in their learning, in their performance management, in their leadership development. I remember many years back, Stella was leading the management trainee program at Unilever. And that is all about getting the best people and making sure that they are sitting on the right seats. She's been involved in the design, in the deployment, in the implementation of wide initiatives that really put the people at the center of the organization. And we will be looking forward to learning from her wealth of experience. And as CX professionals from Kenya, I know there are some who are joining us from Tanzania, there are a few joining us from Namibia, there are a few joining us, I believe, from Cameroon. And one of the things that I would like to say is that as a community in Kenya, the key thing that we are focusing on this year is how then can we use employee experience to elevate customer experience under our Institute of Customer Experience. That's the conversation that we really want to have. And guess what? We must bring in the HR professionals into this conversation because we cannot be able to do it alone. So I do hope that all of you have invited your HR leads as well to this conversation. If you haven't, I think it's still not too late to be able to do that as we dive deep into this conversation. And really, Stella, we are really honored to have you and are looking forward to hearing what you have for us this morning. And I want to jump right into the conversation by getting to ask Stella to just tell us a little bit more about her journey, and tell us about how it has been like being a HR practitioner. How has that journey been like for you, Stella? Good morning, Stella.
Good morning. Good morning, Lucy, and good morning, all participants who have joined. Greetings from Rome, and thank you for having me today. So if I can just go straight to the question, how has my HR journey been? Indeed, it's been 20 years of being a HR professional, but what most of you may not know is that my career actually started as a customer service professional with Standard Chartered Bank. And I think that was the best foundation I ever got. So 20 years as a HR professional. In the 20 years, I have worked in 3 different continents: Africa, Southeast Asia, and now I'm working in Europe. I've had the privilege of sitting in an in-country role, regional roles, and now I'm sitting in a global role. And I also have the benefit of having worked for private sector, global multinationals, that's Standard Chartered Bank, Shell Oil, Unilever, and now I work for the World Food Program. So a good balance between private sector and then humanitarian development. And as Lucy already mentioned, starting from the very foundations of HR, I've been privileged to work through the different elements of the HR function, right? From talent acquisition all the way to talent development, succession planning, all the way to the exit process. So I'm really privileged to be sharing that experience and how that links to, of course, the employee experience.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stella. And we really would like you to break down for us, what's your understanding of employee experience?
Thank you, Lucy. So my understanding of employee experience is really that journey that the employee takes, right? From the moment they first interact with the company, whether it is through an application process, all the way through to the interview selection, onboarding through the different stages of the employee life cycle in the organization. It's all the interactions that they have. First, they probably would interact with a recruiter, with their managers, with their colleagues, their experiences, what they feel, the perceptions they have of the organization. So it's every detail of an employee's life within the organization. That's what forms the employee experience. And that can encompass from as basic as the physical environment, the office where the employee works, how easy it is for them to be able to find their way in the office mess for those who are in a complex office environments, to how they're able to get to work and connect with colleagues through the technology that's provided by them, their employer, to the unspoken, to the unsaid, how things are done within the organization. All those things come together to form the employee experience. So it's not just the life cycle, but also what the employee sees every day, what they go through every day, what they can touch and feel in the workplace.
Yeah. Quite a similar definition for us who are CX professionals. When we talk about customer experience, it's the sum of all the interactions that our customers have with us and how that makes them feel. And I think what I'm also hearing from you in terms of employee experience, it's the same thing. It's a sum of all those interactions, from when they make the application to when they exit, how they feel about it, and therefore we see the two as parallels, and we are very convinced as CX professionals that if we are not excelling internally in terms of our employee experience, it then becomes very difficult for us to excel in terms of our customer experience. But I'd like to hear a little bit more again from your experience when we think about employee experience. What are those secrets of cultivating a thriving employee experience? What should organizations really focus on, whether they are big organizations, small organizations, whether they are in financial services, in the fast-moving consumer goods, or across the board? What is it that really cultivates exceptional employee experience? What should we as businesses focus on? And back to you, Stella.
Thank you, Lucy. So an exceptional employee experience first is also hinged on the company strategy. What is it that you want to achieve as a company or as an organization or whatever it is that you're working? It starts with your strategy. And similarly, building a greater employee experience also starts with a strategy, but the strategy has to be linked to the overall corporate strategy. So if your strategy is about growth, then of course you need to bring it down to what does it mean? How can I leverage the human resources that I have to achieve that growth? But in terms of building an exceptional employee experience, I always say organizations need to first of all have a plan, a strategy. What is your focus? And there are so many elements of the employee life cycle that an organization might want to zoom in and create a positive experience. And I always say, instead of doing everything, identify what is the area that you want to tackle and really stand out and make sure that your employees have an exceptional experience. So for example, in one of the organizations I worked for, we had challenges around resignations within the first 6 months of people joining the organization. And it was really disturbing because we are looking at people who are coming in to bring skills that the organization needed in the marketing function. But there was resignation that happened within the first 6 months. And so we're losing talent. So what happened there then, it's the organization had to zoom in to find out what was happening. Why are our new joiners going? And it turned out that the onboarding experience was was not a great one.
Mhm.
So then identifying what the issue was and zooming in to say, how do we make sure that you're giving our new joiners an exceptional onboarding experience that allows them to stay within the organization and start to contribute to delivering results? So identifying the area of gap, zooming in, and identifying the touch points. What would you like a new employee to feel when they come into the organization? What are the opportunities within the onboarding experience that you can contribute to a positive experience? So for example, the whole process of, when they come in, the tools of trade, the pre-boarding experience, making sure that they have everything that they need, that they have contacts with the right people, they have a positive impression of the organization. Who they meet within the first few days really need to give them that desire to want to continue to work for the organization. So again, customize the offering. So while you do an onboarding for a mid-career person, it will be different from the onboarding that you're offering a fresh graduate that's coming in. So again, identify the touch points, identify the different profiles of employees, and making sure that you're giving customized experiences so that, it all kind of forms an excellent experience when somebody comes into the organization.
Yeah. And I think what I'm hearing from you is that, yes, it has to start from the strategy and it has to be lived every day. Even like when people come for an interview, they don't need to be kept waiting the whole day. The other day I visited the Panari Hotel and I was like, wow, the last time I was here is when I was a new employee in an organization. And that's where they took me for lunch on my first day, And I think for me, that was really exciting to see the entire department take me out for lunch on my first day. And that was part of the onboarding process, and it was really, really exciting. And they did not only take me for lunch on my first day, but even when I was leaving the organization, they also took me out for lunch, so that's almost like end to end. But just even diving a little deeper in terms of when you say that this organization is for sure committed to employee experience, it's not lip service. What are some of the indicators that really would show us as CX professionals, as employees, as business leaders, that our organization is fully committed to employee experience? What are some of those indicators, Stella?
Thanks, Lucy. So just building on the previous question. So having a strategy is not it. There's a lot more that you can do to build a positive employee experience. So for example, the organization needs to be in a posture of continuous listening. Yeah, I'm hearing the feedback that employees give. So besides the annual global employee surveys that happen, what other channels is the organization using to listen to the employees, and what are they doing about the feedback that the employees give across the different tiers of the organization? Acting on that feedback is really important, but there's also a big factor that influences the employee experience: the supervisors, the managers, and making sure that the managers are representing the ambition the organization has around building an exceptional employee experience. Because you can have a strategy, but if your managers are not bought onto that strategy and not role modeling that strategy and not bringing alive that positive experience at the point of interaction with the employee, then it all just becomes a waste of time. But also recognizing those who are contributing to creating that excellent experience for the employees, recognizing your champions. There's so many things that, of course, would stand out in bringing out an excellent employee experience. But now coming to your organization, to your question, how will you know that an organization is actually focusing or fully committed to employee experience? So maybe what I didn't mention in the beginning, why should we really be focusing on employee experience in the first place? Yeah. A lot of research has shown that, employee experience really does make a difference when it comes to achieving an organization's strategy or priorities, right from increased turnover to, of course, increased employee engagement. And when you have engaged employees, they're committed, they go beyond, they offer above and beyond what is expected of them. So they deliver excellent results. They become your champions or your ambassadors. So it's easier for you to be able to attract people to work for you. It helps boost your brand. but also in terms of just efficiencies in operations, because people are engaged, they behave like owners of the organization, so they bring their best foot forward. So how do we know which companies are actually outstanding when it comes to employee experience? A big indicator of employee experience is employee engagement. How engaged, how committed are people to work for you? How willing are they to, stay with you through, all seasons of your company life? And so most organizations measure employee experience through engagement. And some of us who are from HR, I'm not sure anyone is in HR here, but I'm sure you work somewhere, and there is normally a survey that's done to ask a few questions of employees, things like, how proud are you to work for your organization? Would you recommend somebody to come and work for this organization? I'm proud to say that I work for this organization. Those are the questions that are normally asked to measure employee engagement. And it's easy for an organization to see whether, people are proud to say they work for you, are proud of your mission and vision. And so that's an indicator of employee engagement, but also just from results. So remember, it was also linked to your strategy. So if you're delivering results, then there's something about your employees. Results cannot be delivered in a vacuum. Somebody is working hard somewhere to deliver those results. And then, of course, those are the indices that we talked about. Customers, are your customers happy? Are they giving you feedback on how you're serving them? You're looking at turnover for those who are in FMCG. You're looking at revenue growth. So all those indicators can point back to a positive employee experience.
Yeah. And again, just listening to you, the parallels between employee centricity and customer centricity are so many. And I believe that it's because those two groups of people, if you bring them together, and there are conversations that are currently going on around the world about the human experience, customers are people first, employees are people first. And therefore, when we think about how we interact with those two groups of people, we must ask ourselves, how well are we interacting with them, and how are we making them feel? But there's also something that you've said that we also often say in customer experience about the role of the leadership. We see customer experience excellence as a leadership responsibility. And I'm also convinced that also when it comes to employee experience, it's a leadership responsibility, and not just for the HR, because I think one of the things I've learned from HR professionals is that any head of department, anyone who has a team, they really are a HR manager, because they're managing their team. And when you think again about how employee experience has evolved, and I believe it has evolved, I remember at my very first job, we had a personnel manager, and all they did was to keep the employee files. There was no performance management, there was no even onboarding. You would be thrown into the organization, and it was either you are able to swim, or to sink. What sort of trends have you seen in the last 20 years that you have been a HR professional? And what are the trends that we are likely to see into the future? And what should we do to be in tune with where we are at currently and what we are likely to see into the future?
Thanks, Lucy.
Stella.
So my favorite one actually is not even 20 in the last 20 years. I think I'd go back in the last 3 years, because a big shift that came as a result of COVID-19 is employers being willing to allow flexible work arrangements, for example. 10 years ago, very few organizations even paid attention to employee needs for flexibility. But COVID-19 plunged us into that space where flexible work arrangements no longer became, something that a preserve of only a few organizations, but that's something that, it sets organizations apart. So flexible work arrangements, allowing people to work remotely or work from different locations and just focusing on results more than physical presence, it's really a shift. And that is making a big difference when it comes to employee engagement, because that flexibility allows employees to live their full lives, take care of their work commitments as well as commitments outside of work. So I think for me, one of the shifts that I see is allowing flexible work arrangements or even hybrid work arrangements, where people can work some parts in the office and some parts are from home. Another shift that I have seen in the employee experience space is organizations now paying attention to mental health and well-being. Yeah, in the past, it was unheard of that employers even thought about mental health. And if anyone was suspected to be having mental health issues, you'd already start an exit plan for them because they didn't belong. But now organizations are stretching, to say you're focusing on the whole employee and their well-being, not just physical, offering you a medical insurance, but also making sure that you're getting psychosocial support in the workplace. So you've seen counselors, employers bringing in counselors into the workplace to support employees, take care of their mental well-being. Another shift that I have seen is on diversity, equity, and inclusion. I don't know about what the workplace environment looks like in most places in Africa, but across the world, it's no longer rare to talk about LGBTQ in the workplace. So embracing inclusion and allowing people to come to the workplace as they are, as the whole human being, is also another thing that I see in terms of creating that inclusive workplace and saying, you know what, everybody can actually bring their best to work, irrespective of what their preferences are. Yeah, so those are some of the trends that I see in employee experience. There could be more, but I'm just zooming in the last 3-4 years because there's been a major shift in that space. Yeah.
In fact, listening to you and even that question you've posed in terms of how the work environment is in Africa, and I think some of the things when it comes to inclusion that we consider is even people who are differently enabled, it's people who are different from us in terms of religion. It's people who are from a completely different background, and I believe that we are likely to see significant shifts in how organizations interact with their employees as we move on. And one of the things that is very evident, and especially in Africa as compared to other continents, is that of course we are not spoiled for jobs. It's not as easy here in Africa for someone to just leave an organization because they didn't like it. They didn't like the environment. They didn't feel like the organization really cared about them. But I've been seeing a significant shift, and especially in terms of building high performance organizations. I think that's one of the things you've said, that it doesn't matter where you're working from, as long as you can get the job done. You can work as you travel the world. I don't think it's even work from home. You can work from anywhere. And I don't know, in terms of some of the initiatives, because a lot of us in customer experience are involved in driving transformation efforts within an organization, and especially those around culture. Would like to hear from you. What are some of those initiatives that really bring to life exceptional employee experiences? Of course, we've talked about the umbrella employee engagement, but how can we break it down into bite sizes that we as CX professionals can even be able to be part of? What are those initiatives that you've seen that really bring employee experience to life?
So I can zoom in into an area that is very close to my heart, which is learning, for example. Yeah. And I would give a close example of an organization like the World Food Program with 23,000 employees, sometimes working in very remote locations. And how do we make sure that learning happens, even in the most remote of locations? And it's not a privilege of those that are only based in, locations that have internet or have access to different things. So what we have done is we've taken advantage of AVR technology, augmented virtual reality, and come up with tools that allow employees in remote locations to take programs like, they're taking a course on interviewing skills, for example, and preparing for interviews. So they don't have to physically go to a location, but they can take the programs through, AVR tools in those locations. So that's one. But also allowing access through, what can I say, a platform learning platform that's not necessarily so much dependent on internet, but having those tools available to all employees across the organization. Things like making learning available, accessible through mobile devices for those that are in locations where they can use mobile devices and have access to the internet, so that it's not just limited to a location, but learning can happen anywhere. Things like also looking at the fact that people are really busy. They may not have time to dedicate like a full hour to dedicate in taking a program, and offering like bite-sized learning. 15 minutes, you can already learn something, whether it's through a video, whether it's through a little script that they will need to read, or a story, or a book summary, something that they can do within a short time to just make sure that they're learning, but also learning in the course of work. So you don't have to take time out of your workplace to go and attend a program. You can actually learn in the course of the work. Yeah, as you work, where are the opportunities for you to build a skill, and making sure that you're providing those touch points to boost learning and development. That's just an example that I can give of an initiative specific to learning and development that can boost employee experience. Yeah.
Thanks, Stella. And for those that have joined us, please, if you have any question, if you have any comment, if you'd like to share some initiatives that you're running within your organization to drive employee experience, we want to give you an opportunity to be able to share that on chat, and probably we can even have a few people unmute and share with us what is it that they're doing within their organizations to bring employee experience to life. And interesting, Stella, you talk about learning, because probably you've like you've said, you've been very passionate about learning and development. And I often say that if our organization is not a learning organization, then we are unable to look out for opportunities for continuous improvement. We are unable to look out for opportunities to innovate. And as CX professionals, a lot of times, in fact, I remember previously when I was in the corporate, I used to even be the trainer within the organization. I would train people on customer experience as they joined the organization. And even when we held refresher courses, we would need to, first of all, build capacity internally to be able to run some of the trainings around customer experience. But beyond learning, I don't know what other initiatives you'd to share with us that really also bring employee experience live. And I think earlier on you talked about the onboarding process, which I believe is very, very, very critical. Yeah, you've talked about. I don't know if there is anything else around performance, Yeah.
Yeah, and earlier on, I also mentioned that even the physical work experience environment actually contributes to a positive employee experience. So, for example, another trend that I see, and I'm sure that is hitting as well in Kenya, to enable what we call agile working. So, creating an environment that allows people to not to feel like they are constrained in the work environment. So from the look and feel, the choice of colors, the lighting, the seating, where organizations are not anymore going for a physical desk that somebody goes to every day, but a working space where, you find a seat and that's your seat for the day. Tomorrow when you come, somebody else might be seated there and you find another seat. But that whole environment allows for collaboration, allows for breaking down silos and people to be able to engage and interact with one another. I think that's really also another way of bringing the employee experience in the physical work environment. Some offices, I know in the past, when we read about companies, that provide for ice cream vending machines in the workplace, or where you can have as much drinks as you want or have as much coffee. Now I think it's becoming a normal thing in the workplace. But I remember that when I went first to Singapore many years ago, and surprised to see that I could have as much ice cream in the workplace as I could, or I could eat food, whatever type of food that I wanted, different kind of restaurants in the workplace. That was a bit surprising 10 years ago, but I think now it's becoming a common thing in the workplace. So you're looking after employees, not just what is related to work, but just allowing them also to experience life in the workplace. Facilities like gym, wellness facilities where people can actually, even during work hours, they can go to a gaming room. If you feel like you need a break, a brain break, go into a gaming room, play some games, then come back to the workplace. All these things are done to actually create that positive employee experience, to keep your people engaged and committed to working. Who didn't want to go to work and play a little, go to a room and play and come back? And some are actually also having spaces where people can go and sleep during break. Yeah, all those are kind of things or initiatives that employers are putting in place to provide an enhanced employee experience. Yeah, we could talk on and on. Maybe I could even go through each of the stages and see in
Yes.
the onboarding what people are doing in the onboarding space. You're not waiting anymore for an employee to start on day one, but onboarding actually starts way before an employee comes into the organization. They get an immersion into what the organization looks like even before they start. And some organizations are actually using also, again, AVR to provide virtual collaborative onboarding experiences. So somebody uses the gadgets to immerse, to have an immersion into an office and see what it looks like to be in the office on day one, even before they come to the office. So using technology to really provide an enhanced employee experience. So there could be many examples. I think I can go on and on, but
It's interesting. You talk about ice cream. It's very hot here in Kenya. I know where you're joining us from. It's winter. So there are some who are listening here today who need to put that in their budget, And you talk about the gym, and it reminded me at one of my workplaces, our MD, would look at the list. We had a paid up gym, and he would look at the list every morning to see who are the people who are actually going to the gym, because he felt it was important for people to keep physically fit. And I believe, like you've said, there are so many initiatives that would really be able to bring employee experience to life. And especially if you look at the end-to-end employee journey, and be able to ask ourselves, how can we be able to make our workplaces more human-centered? In fact, last week we had a conversation about designing human-centered workplaces, and it's about really putting the human needs at the center of your design process. And sometimes there's a confusion around, are we as CX professionals really supposed to be the ones who are driving employee experience conversations? Why are the HR professionals not driving that conversation in the workplaces? And from where you sit, and I know you've even been involved in the local IHRM organization here, and we really would want to bring on board the HR professionals into this conversation. But in terms of with your experience, who do you think is really responsible for employee experience? Who should be driving conversations for employee experience in organizations?
That's a good question. And seeing the fact that employee experience is collective effort of everybody. Yeah, right from, let's say, your guard at the entrance who the employee first meets when they come into the organization, to your CEO. I think should be a collective effort, but as I said earlier on, it depends on your business strategy. And because employee experience really contributes to the achievement of the business strategy, leaders should be at the forefront of owning the employee experience. Yeah. When I say leaders should be at the forefront, they should own, sponsor, be visible champions of employee experience for it to happen. So for example, if you let it, I know HR plays a big role in facilitating that employee experience. Yeah. But HR can only have a voice, can only have strength when it's owned by the business, and it becomes a business imperative and not just a HR imperative. So while employee experience is collective effort, everybody contributes to it, everybody needs to be a part of it. I really strongly believe that when it's a business imperative and it's owned by the business and the leaders being at the forefront of it, it becomes a reality. Yeah. So collective effort, but it's a business imperative. So it's not something that you can relegate to, somebody who may not necessarily have a voice. So when they set up anything, people don't patronize it because it's not owned by the business. Yeah.
Another parallel, as you explain the leadership responsibility, and also that everybody has a responsibility when it comes to employee experience, because we are interacting with everybody else within the organization. And therefore, I would like to encourage us as CX professionals, to keep leading our organizations forward in terms of focusing on the people first, for us to then be able to see the good results that we are hoping to see in customer experience, in customer loyalty, in just building a brand that is that is really known to give great experiences end to end, both for the employees and also for the customers. And no wonder a lot of organizations that excel in customer experience also seem to be excelling in employee experience. They are starting from the inside, and with the inside out approach, they're able to make headway into customer experience. Wow, Stella, this has been quite an interesting conversation, and I still would ask if there's anyone who has a question around what we've already said, or a comment. Please feel free to post it on the chat. We are tracking the chat to see whether there is any question or comment. Somebody has reminded us that we haven't mentioned lactation rooms. The majority of us here this morning are women, and that's something that is close to our hearts, and even our very small SME office, one of the standard things that is right there next to the kitchen is a lactation room, and it encourages mothers, to then be able to express their milk and to be able to come to the office when they need to. Yeah, and I'm sure there are lots and lots of other initiatives that organizations are having around employee experience. And this is a year for us as CX professionals to make sure that our voice is heard in terms of driving employee experience within our organization, that we shouldn't just be seen to look at the customer experience, but to care enough about how is our workplace. Are we having healthy workplaces? I know there are organizations that struggle with a lot of toxicity at the workplace, and that has a huge impact in terms of how our customers' experience has, because our customers can feel when there is toxicity in the workplace. Yeah, I'm just trying to see, Paul, is there any question, even as we get to hear the final word from Stella? Any question on the chat? I don't see any from my end.
No question, on some comments. I see Rosemary Kiboro says toxicity is real. Daycare center within the workplace. So no real question, just but comments from what we are picking from our speaker, Stella.
Okay, awesome. So for all of us here, one of the key questions that I'll be posing to us is what sort of strategy do you have around employee experience, and what is it that you will be doing differently this year? Because we need to live up to our theme as a CX professionals, elevating CX through EX, through employee experience. Yeah, Stella, what's your final word to us as CX professionals, to us as business leaders?
I think my final word resonates. I mean, there's a quote from Simon Sinek that says, customers will never love your company until your employees love it first. So if you're looking to, excel at customer experience, for example, and also to grow your business, start by getting your employees to love your business. Yeah, and it's no longer time that we just consider employees as workers. They are a critical, actually competitive advantage to the organization. So taking care of the employees is no longer a nice to have, but really a business imperative. Yeah, and Richard Branson is also very famous at articulating what organizations should do around employees. He also said, take care of your employees and they'll take care of your business. Yeah. And other quotes like, to win in the marketplace, you first must win in the workplace. So you cannot expect to be profitable, to excel in the marketplace, and yet in your workplace, you have challenges because it'll never work. So take care of your employees and they'll take care of your business. That's what I can say.
Great pieces of wisdom right there, from business leaders who have grown businesses. I often say as CX professionals, we need to do a study tour to Mahali, Missouri, one of the outfits that Richard Branson runs here in Kenya. And it's been rated as one of the places to visit in the world. And I have a nephew who likes to often go there. And he talks about the experience. He talks about the employees, he doesn't talk about himself as a customer. He talks about the employees and how they make him feel, you know. Yeah, so thank you so much, Stella, for having joined us this morning. We really do appreciate your great insights. We really appreciate that you have been able to break down employee experience in a way that it's easy for us to understand, and that in this process, we are then able to discover the power of employee experience as a pathway to customer experience excellence. Really, really delighted to have had your experience, even in the organizations where you've worked, in driving employee experience, to drive employee engagement, to drive business performance. And as we wrap up this session, I would just want to say thank you and to invite my colleague, Duncan, who will be taking over the next session. So thank you so much, Stella, and have yourself a lovely day. I wonder whether you'll need to catch some sleep, you know? I see like
No,
you're ready for the day.
it's
You're ready
already
for
morning
the day.
here. So
Yeah, you have an early morning. Thank you
thanks
so
for having
much.
me. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you, Stella.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And by the way, it was Stella's birthday on Saturday. So we wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you.
Best
Thank you,
year
Lucy.
ahead. Yeah.
Thank
Duncan,
you.
take it over.
Oh yeah, what an awesome morning, just getting to hear about employee experience. I remember when I used to be in employment as well, we had a crush for the mothers, and sometimes being a very young employee, sometimes you wonder, is the employer working too hard to please us? But when you grow, you realize each cadre of staff have different expectations and experiences. Yeah, we even had fridges, to carry your food from home, and you can warm it up. And the only catch was, as an employee, you can bring any food except don't use our microwave to warm our mena. Which I don't know whether Stella still remembers Amena, because it would dent the experience. But this is beautiful. Thank you so much, Stella, for the insights. Just the ice cream at work. I'm thinking it's a low hanging fruit. No employee would say no to ice cream at work. The only thing is, if it is not a leadership imperative, as you've put it, if it's not part of the culture, employees start even to question, why are you jumping into the journey again that you have talked about, the onboarding. We've had scenarios where someone says, you employ someone and 3 months down the line is a totally different person, because the internal experience has shaped them into a certain kind of way, and maybe they are not exactly who you wanted after that. But thank you so very much. So we'll just walk us into well, first of all, of course, appreciating everyone for logging in, and just the chat, people saying toxicity is real. It's interesting when you go to a place when they ask you, are you willing to recommend your friends or family? And they would say, no, let them work in the other organization, because then you're not having a good employee experience, so to say. So I'll just quickly say that for us then, from CX Academy, we have lined up a couple of things for you to just be able to enjoy and be a part of this conversation. And I would like us to know that we have our upcoming programs. Maybe I'll ask if Paul, you're able to share that from your end, the slides, so that I could talk them through just what is coming up next. We have a very interesting program, the SCX Champion Online Monthly Program, starting first session in 14th of March, just a couple of weeks. And basically, this leads to a graduation towards the tail end of the year. And on a monthly basis, we'll be nibbling to build the CX champion in a very easy to digest portion that just help to build that employee experience, but more importantly, also an extension of that to our customers. Then we also have the customer experience bootcamp for leaders. If you're a leader in your space and you'd like to just walk through the tenets of how to champion customer experience, the bootcamp will be good for you. Of course, a couple of topics, demonstration on the in-depth understanding of CX trends and principles, and then how that applies in your workspace, acquiring skills and knowledge on creating and sustaining a customer-centric culture. You can't sell out if you can't sell it in. And as a leader, from Stella. She's mentioned that it's a leadership imperative. You need to be part of the strategy, and these are some of the areas we'll be looking at in the boot camp. And we have the foundational customer experience course, and basically this foundational customer experience course will be coming in. We have the first session, of course, coming in on Thursday 7th to Friday 8th of March. And this course is important for anyone who would like just to build a proper foundation on customer experience. You can visit our website, CX Academy, but before that, we would like to know and advise and tell you there's something greater coming in next week. In our breakfast session, guess what? We'll be having none other than Wavi Mungala herself, the board director, Institute of Customer Experience in Kenya. We want to hear from the top itself. So next breakfast, you don't want to miss this. Please log in good time, and thank you for coming in. Wavi will be walking us through a very, very powerful topic. Of course, we definitely will be having these breakfast conversations, becoming a CX champion. She will be leading us and walking us through that, even as we nibble into some of these topics, building and telling stories in Africa, the CX stories in Africa. What a beautiful time it's been. You can reach us on the contacts that are on the screen. CX Academy Africa on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram and Twitter. Our number is 0701 873 777. I'll say that again. 0701 for those who are outside the country, +254 701 873 777. It's been beautiful. It's been an honor having you guys today. Even as you subscribe and you get your links every day, we'd like you to invite your friends, invite your colleagues, invite the people who would benefit from this. I would like to say thank you very much to, again, our guest speaker, Stella Atella, for spending her time waking up very early to be with us today, as well as Dr. Lucy for moderating today. From CX Academy, we say thank you very, very much. Good. I guess we call it a meeting, and thank you so much for tuning in these breakfast conversations.